Once upon a time, in the prosperous land, there lived a proud and feared prince named Dubem. As the only son of the ailing king, Dubem was the heir to the throne, and he could hardly wait for his father's passing to seize power. Blinded by arrogance and privilege, Prince Dubem used his status to oppress the villagers. But his sins ran far deeper than mere tyranny. In the shadows, he committed unspeakable acts, silencing his victims with threats and fear. One fateful afternoon, a young maiden named Onika was returning from the farm when she crossed paths with the prince. Without warning or mercy, Dubem forced himself on her in the quiet bushes by the roadside, warning her never to speak of what had happened. Terrified and ashamed, Onika returned home in silence. Weeks later, the signs of pregnancy began to show. When her aging mother discovered her illness, she begged her daughter to reveal the father's identity. But Onika remained silent, fearing for their lives. As her belly grew, so did the whispers in the village. Onika became an outcast, mocked and judged by those who never knew the truth. Meanwhile, Prince Dubem continued his reign of terror. His cruelty peaked when he attacked a young virgin named Chiwen on the eve of her wedding. Despite her desperate pleas, Dubem violated her, destroying her future and her will to live. The next morning, her lifeless body was found in the village river. The people mourned her, but no one knew the true reason for her death. Dubem remained untouched, his heart cold and conscience silent, until the day everything changed. One evening, as he walked by the stream, he saw a stunning maiden fetching water alone. Thinking she was yet another victim, he approached her and committed the same vile act. But this time, something was different. The girl made no sound, no resistance. When Dubem looked at her again, her form shimmered and changed into a terrifying mermaid. Panicked and breathless, he fled back to the palace, only to make a horrifying discovery. His manhood had vanished. In terror, he returned to the stream the next morning to plead with the mermaid, but she was gone. Days passed. The king's condition worsened, and pressure mounted for Dubem to take a wife and produce an heir. But how could he, now that he was cursed? In desperation, he returned to the river with offerings, begging the mermaid to undo her curse. At last, she appeared, visibly pregnant. The mermaid revealed that the child was his and warned him he was now her husband, and if he ever took another wife, he would die. Then she vanished once more into the water. Back at the palace, Dubem was summoned to his father's bedside. The king told him the time had come to meet the bride chosen by the gods, a necessary step to ascend the throne. But Dubem knew he could not marry anyone else. When the king asked him what was wrong, the prince broke down. With trembling lips and eyes full of regret, he confessed everything: his crimes, the women, the mermaid, the curse, the unborn child, the missing manhood. The king listened in silent horror. There is no power without consequence. The king said solemnly, "You have stained your hands and your name. You are unworthy of the throne." The king decreed that if Dubem wished to live in peace, he must confess to the entire village and beg for forgiveness. But doing so would mean giving up the crown forever. Humbled at last, Prince Dubem agreed. Before the gathered villagers, he stood and said, "I stand before you, not as a prince, but as a broken man. I have wronged many. To the women I have harmed, to the spirits I have offended, and to the mermaid who bears my child, I offer my deepest apologies." As he spoke, the sky darkened and the river stirred. From its depths emerged the mermaid, holding a child in her arms. She declared the boy, named Easy, would be a bridge between land and sea. She returned Dubem's manhood and reminded him he was hers forever. Then she vanished again beneath the waves. The king, hearing the story, declared that Dubem could never be king. The gods, through the village priest, revealed the true heir, a boy named Uzoma, born of Oneka, the girl Dubem had raped years ago. She had raised him in secret, hiding his identity to protect him. The king crowned Uzoma in secret before his brother Okeke, a greedy and power-hungry man, could interfere. When Okeke found out, he was furious and plotted to kill the young king. But Oneka protected her son with fierce devotion. Uzoma's reign began under the guidance of his mother and grandfather. He proved wise, kind, and just, a true king chosen by the gods. As for Prince Dubem, he left the palace and lived quietly, raising his son Izzy, the boy born of sea and sorrow. The mermaid visited often, and though Dubem was never free to love another, he found peace in repentance. The lesson: power without virtue leads only to ruin. No evil deed goes unpunished, and true leadership is not about dominance, but about humility, service, and honor. If you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories to life. See you in the next one.